Hi.
This thing on?
I think so. We'll find out soon.
Alright.
Welcome to GameWalks. It's June 20th. I'm Matt.
I'm Jim.
And I have actually just freshly gotten back from E3.
Lucky you.
I know. You're jealous.
I am.
I took some time off from work and went down
to work.
to the show. Well, somebody has to make the game. Can't both go away. So I thought maybe we could spend some time in this episode talking about some of the things I saw.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
I mean, for me, it was...
I was going to start with the Microsoft news from yesterday. That's all right. We'll catch up to that.
Well, for me, it's all about for me, it's all about the software. You know, we had these press conferences before we went down there. People had their own preconceived notions about who's going to win the console war. Is it going to be Microsoft? Is it going to be Sony? What does each console do? And we've talked a little bit about the strengths and weaknesses of the different consoles. But to me, the most exciting thing about E3, I mean, it's fun to get your hands on the new hardware, but the most exciting thing is seeing the new software, seeing the new games that are coming out.
Yeah, there are a lot of good games.
There's so many good games.
Oh
man, a lot of people down there on the show floor were saying this is like the most exciting E3 we've had in like a decade. Just in terms of the software, let alone the fact that we have all this new hardware coming out too, which is just incredible.
And what were some of your favorites?
So I was worried, I think rightfully so, that it would be hard to get your hands on an Xbox One. So on the very first day, I pressed myself up against the glass right before the show opened. And I had consulted a map beforehand, so I beelined straight to the Microsoft booth, because I knew exactly where it was, and got in line for an Xbox One game. They only had two on display there. It was either going to be Forza 5 or Rise, Sons of Rome, which I obviously went for Rise because I love action-adventure games. And even pushing my way through the front, I still had a 45-minute wait, but I heard the wait's got,
that's not too bad.
over 2 hours later in the day. So 45 minutes is pretty good. So I waited through, and Rise is an interesting game. It starts out sort of like God of War. You know, you're in ancient times, and there's some visceral combat, fighting, and whatnot. We're doing it live.
Yeah.
But the way that Rise is different than God of War, in my opinion, is that God of War, the camera is very zoomed out, and you don't really focus on Kratos except in those quick time events.
Yep.
Whereas in Rise, it's much more of like over the shoulder, so you can see a lot more of the emotion of your characters and of the characters that you're fighting.
So
and
it's almost like Gears of War, melee combat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So way more cinematic. Gears is a great analog. And I thought the combat was pretty cool. There was some concern that it was going to be too QuickTime oriented.
Well, I saw like 30 QuickTime things in the press conference demo, so
yeah,
I think that's warranted.
The demo that I played did not have very many QuickTime things, which is cool. You can always optionally use QuickTime events to like do really cool finishing moves on people.
Yeah.
But you can just punch them a bunch of times too.
See you soon.
That game looked cool, and they had a Kinect component as well, but the Kinect was disabled on the show floor because it's so crowded and busy. It'd be really hard.
So tech can't handle that yet.
Yeah. But also in the Microsoft booth, they had the Kinect Tech demo, and the new Kinect, the Kinect 2, I suppose. I don't feel like it unlocks very many design innovations. I don't feel like it's cooler as a developer to have a Kinect 2 versus a Kinect 1, but just in terms of the processing power that thing can do,
it's
pretty incredible. It can actually detect your heart rate just by looking at you.
Yeah. Is that going to play into the Illuma Room?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like you claimed you're going to see?
It can track velocity. Like if you punch, it doesn't just know that your hand is moving through the air. It can know how fast and velocity.
Alright.
It does some pretty sophisticated stuff.
That'll be cool.
But it doesn't really unlock anything new in gaming, in my opinion. Really.
Yeah. Worth that extra $100 they're charging you for the console? Matt?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I did pre-order one though.
So did I.
But what games were you excited about coming out at E3? If you could have been there, what would you run straight to?
Let's see. What was I excited about?
And don't say Destiny and don't say Titanfall. Those guys had ridiculously long lines.
But I was excited about Titanfall. I love those guys.
Yeah. It looked cool. I didn't wait in the line to play.
Yeah, and I thought Titanfall looked pretty good at the press conference. I was excited that they announced a Battlefront game.
Yeah.
That's kind of near and dear to our hearts. Given that I was working on a Battlefront game.
That's pretty exciting.
So see more rise. And
well, another game that I was excited about seeing, which is not a next-gen game, was Beyond Two Souls, which is Quantic Dream, the makers of Heavy Rain.
Yeah.
And this game is interesting to me. So the concept of the game, and they have not revealed many details about the story. So if it sounds confusing as I'm explaining it to you, it's because it's still very confusing to me as well. Is that you're a girl character played by Ellen Page, and you also have a spirit who is detached from your body and can move around and do basic spirit things like knock over an object, or sometimes, rarely, more advanced spirit things like possess an individual.
Yeah.
And so the game, like Heavy Rain, it has no real buttons like predetermined, it's all contextual. So the only buttons that you're guaranteed to have is like move, and then when you walk up to something that you can interact with, there'll be a little quick time event and you can interact with it.
Alright.
But Heavy Rain relied really heavily on, button presses, like press square, press triangle, move this in a circle. And this one is all gesture based, so it's like move the D-pad or the joystick in the direction that the character is moving, move it away, move both joysticks out, and then bring them back in to make an explosion.
Now, I liked Heavy Rain.
That's interesting.
A lot of the interaction stuff was funky. So,
I mean, I'm not ready to call it yet. Some of these interactions were a little funky because they tried to get away from, in Heavy Rain you would always see a UI element and be like, press R1 to pick up this plate.
Yeah.
And here they don't really do that. It's more like you'll just see that your character is sort of starting to move and the camera will change color or tint slightly.
Yeah.
And then you'll realize that you can press the joystick in the direction that your character's moving and trigger what is essentially a quick time event. It felt a little more elegant, but also a little more confusing at times.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a better experience for somebody watching it because you're not going to see these interface elements everywhere.
Yeah.
And if they succeed in telling a cool story, which it seems like they will, they got Willem Dafoe and Ellen Page,
I trust they'll tell
lots
a
of
great
voice
story.
acting and mocap. So that could be interesting.
Yep, that'd be cool. So what were your thoughts on the hardware wars being down there and then all the reaction over the past week and now?
Well, so it's interesting how it seems so polarizing and like the devices are so different, but from the show floor, man, they could not have been more similar.
Oh, no.
I'll give you a couple of examples. One is the PlayStation increased the size of their DualShock controller by about 10%, and Microsoft decreased the size of their Xbox One controller by about 10%, and now they're roughly the same size.
Oh, excellent.
Which is interesting.
Great.
And then the other thing that was interesting, and you don't really see this from the videos, I think even we were talking how, it doesn't feel like there's that big jump in graphics quality and capabilities. Well, I gotta tell you, the Sony guys were really smart. They put PS3s right next to PS4s. Next gen, unreleased games on PS3 next to early prototype games on PS4, and it's a marked difference. Sure, they're both 1080p, 60 frames a second. The PS3 can already do that, but you have to take so many shortcuts on the PS3 to achieve that frame rate. You have to compress your textures and limit the amount of visual effects, and et cetera, et cetera.
Or I could just buy a PC and put that next to the PS.
I don't know, man.
How would you compare it? If you took your PC, played, one of the latest games, like Tomb Raider at 1920 by 1080 and all the max details, and compared that to the PS4.
Honestly, I don't think I'm trolling you when I say this. I really do think that the graphics on the PS4 and the Xbox One looked better than cutting-edge PC graphics.
Wow,
and
really?
that may have to do with the fact that, when I bought my PC, I did not spend $8,000 on it. I did not buy the most cutting-edge graphics, but it is relatively new.
But I could run Tomb Raider at max everything, even on my fairly budget system. So
I think it's a twofold problem, right? Part of the problem is the developers aren't wasting too much time making games for an experience that 1% of gamers can actually unlock. So how much time do the developers really spend optimizing how beautiful it looks on the highest end systems?
It looks pretty awesome.
Whereas the PlayStation 4, everybody has the same exact hardware.
Yeah.
So that's one issue. And then the other issue is, of course, that the PS4 costs $400 and a cutting-edge PC, in addition to costing over $1,000, has all the hardware know-how of how do you assemble it, how do you troubleshoot, update your graphics drivers, blah, 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 blah.
I'm just trying to...
So I will say, I think it was, I think the graphics quality was on par with cutting-edge PC, and given the ease of use and the fact that it was on a television. And then the other point I'll make is it was incredible night and day compared to the PS3. So it's like,
that's good to know.
It's like, if you have a DVD and then you go up to Blu-ray. Sure, they're both high definition on your nice big screen television or whatever, but the difference in quality on that Blu-ray is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like to me.
That's fair.
So it's harder to qualify it, and especially if you're not getting your eyes on it, if you're just watching a video.
Yeah.
You know? But I'm excited about it.
Right.
And that's true for both the PlayStation and the Xbox One.
And then the Xbox 180.
The Xbox 180.
I mean, I guess to your point a few minutes ago, like, they're becoming even more similar, right?
Yeah.
Like, what were some key differentiators, good, you know, for better or worse, between the two consoles? Now with kind of this latest pivot by Microsoft, perhaps even more closely.
Yeah, they're removing their restrictive DRM, and now it's a disk-based security system, which a lot of people, you know, it's what we wanted as gamers. We wanted a disk-based DRM system so I can loan you my disk and then you have it. But we didn't realize that you know, it's like, sure, we got what we wanted on that front, but we lost a little bit in terms of they were going to allow me to digitally share copies of games.
Yeah.
And now it's strictly a disk-based system.
So we'll see.
You know what? They already developed that technology. They were confident enough in it to announce it. So what they probably did was, you know, comment it out, change the system slightly. But the underlying technology is still there. And 2 years from now, if it turns out that nobody's actually using disc games anymore, you just flip a switch. I know it's not that easy, but, you know, they'll just, you know, adopt that technology. They've already designed it and patented it and announced it.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I've got both systems pre-ordered, you know.
Oh, you have to.
So
there's great exclusives on both.
As much as you want to, you know, complain about one or the other, or, you know, pop up one or the other, like, I'll play both.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. It'll be good.
So anyways, bottom line is E3 was just very exciting and inspiring, and I've got faith in this console generation, and I just really hope they take off, you know?
It'll be good. It'll be good for the industry. It'll be good for gamers.
So many great games to talk about over the next few game walks too. I haven't even tipped through my top 10 list yet.
All right, great. Looking forward to it.
Cool. See you later.
Brian!